And BK is back. But as you can hear, my voice still is not well. I had hoped that things would have been better, but that's not the case. Additionally, there have been some problems on the realm, and aside from that, by now it has become clear that my computers can't handle 1.13 without Optifine. My game freezes continuously. Well, yeah, continuously. Mostly it's just for a few seconds, but sometimes it's a longer period, which can run up to a minute. And during that time, I'm in game, but I can't do anything. I can't even see what's happening. But obviously, any mob that is around me can attack me without me being able to defend myself. So, in that fashion, this has already cost me 3 lives. And I have to admit that kind of hurts my pride, because before I joined servers and eventually this realm, I played single player worlds in hardcore. And you know, in hardcore, when you die, your world is erased. You can no longer access it. So you really are encouraged to not die or take too much damage. So normally I should be able to hold 0 deaths. And of course, just having this counter in the game creates a little bit of competitivity. And I know of at least one player who also tries to keep 0 deaths and has more success. That's a bit unfortunate. Well, so be it. As you can see, I've made a little house here. I've taken a design from Korean and made it a bit my own. I still need to make a few changes. As you can see, there's some glass missing on the top floor. Well, the second floor for Americans, first floor for Australians and Europeans. That's because I misplaced a few glass blocks and I don't have Silk Touch yet. I could get Silk Touch because I have got, as you can see it in the back, an enchantment table and the means to get it, but I haven't had time to do it, mainly because of my computer problems. And even more, as perhaps you know, because I've understood that it's also the case in the US, at this moment Europe is suffering already for a few weeks a heat wave, and this is now on its full height. It's now, let me see, it's 31 degrees inside here at the moment. That's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And my computers can't handle that either, so I am suffering. Yeah, so I can't really show you much advancement made, except then for those 3 deaths that I got due to those game freezes. What I have done is a little bit of mapping. That's what I like doing. So this is the first map I made. So at the moment we are in the top left corner. That's where my temporary base is, because of obviously I'm not going to stay here. That's spawn portal, and just behind that is spawn island. This was just a temporary stakeout, temporary base that I made. Somebody's building there. I assume that that's dark. That wooden structure there is made by Zetai. And Terrastormer is building further on there. He will need a lot of space. I'm very curious to see what he will do. As you can see, I've been using spruce wood, and I haven't been able to fix this yet. Really, I've lost a lot of time. It's a shame. I do have cows. I did find pumpkins and melons, as you can see. And in the beginning, when I started, this was a little hill, and I made a little hut. I will try to post a picture that I made during the changes that I made. Unfortunately, I haven't made any pictures of the hut on the hill itself, so you'll have to do it with that. I got a cat, one cat. I haven't named it yet. I still need to think about it. I don't dare to go down in the water to find treasures, simply because my game freezes so often and I don't want to drown. But Let me just see. At least now I've got respiration 3, so that might help now. And yes, I know it's a golden helmet, but I'm saving up on my stuff, and this was a helmet that I got from one of the mobs. Good, so as you saw before, I did some mapping, and I've been recording a bit of that because I just knew that I couldn't offer you a decent first episode, so at least I've got that footage, and I will tell you a bit more about what happened before on the other worlds on this realm and how I like doing role playing. I would say enjoy it, and I hope that my throat gets better, that Optifine comes out as soon as possible, so that I can have some adventures, so that I can offer them to you. Well, so enjoy the little story time and some clips of me doing mapping. And BK says bye. I started this mapping session 2 days ago, but I had to interrupt it for some reasons, and then obviously yesterday there were some problems with the realm, so this is the first time I get back, and well, you can still see some interesting places. The cores are in the left corner. I hope they're visible. This is the first test for me. I found 3 desert monuments, but I'm sorry, all 3 are looted now. There wasn't that much interesting to be found there, but still I took most of it. I've left some things behind, like bones. For the moment I have enough of those, and definitely string and spider eyes, because I've got that triple cave spider spawner now below my house, or my temporary house. But now to that story, I'll make it a little history about my activity on the realm. So originally I played single player worlds, mostly hardcore, and luckily then I encountered some servers and I had some fun there, but due to some unpleasant circumstances I looked further than that, and then I encountered Kyle's realm. So I applied, I was whitelisted, and I joined in on the end of the first season. Before I knew it, the first season was to an ending. I remember it was exactly at the moment that I was working on an ocean monument. But that's okay, so I could start afresh in a fresh world. Season 2, Kyle's Realm 2. And actually, pretty early on, well, after 2 months or something, but to me that's early, the character of Sir Francis BK started to develop. Sir Francis BK is a businessman, and actually the name popped to my head a bit earlier, when the world was still rather fresh. I like to explore and I like to map, just like I'm doing right now. And I found the first potato, so I brought the first potato to Spawn City, which would later become Old Spawn after the new one was created. And just like, well, the first person to bring potatoes to Europe was Walter Raleigh, but the other explorer, Sir Francis Drake, popped to my mind, so I made it Sir Francis BK, and that stayed. So I originally opened one shop, BK Bargains. I'm sure that the people who played on the realm still remember that shop. And the story around it started to develop. So at a certain moment, I think it was the end of the 3rd month I was playing, I wanted to make my shop bigger. And for that, I needed some time to develop the new shop, and some things interrupted me, so I had to prolong it. So I developed this little story that so-called when they were taking down the shop, they found some vestiges, old vestiges, and the building of the new shop had to be stopped because of archaeological findings and more tests that had to be done. So that story started to develop, and for that I had created the company behind BK Bargains, which is BK Inc., with the CEO, Sir Francis BK. So that's how that started. That grew and grew. So I started to get more shops. There was BK Books, BK Brews. Let me think. There was so many shops. BK Bows. There was BK Bets and the BK Bookie, who run BK Bets, the gambling office. Obviously, there was something fishy behind BK Inc. I made it so that you always doubt how sincere it was or how honest everything happened. So near the end of the season, I had Sir Francis BK imprisoned because of misdeeds. He had also bribed Pope Steve the 25th, I think it was, to become a cardinal. So he was His Eminence Sir Francis BK and those kinds of things. He was imprisoned for, as I said, misdealings and also some stuff that he did with his secretary, who at the time seemed to have been, or perhaps was, a little bit underaged. That kind of stuff. So that's how that season ended. Then there was Kyle's Realm 3, where it also took me a little bit, but shorter than before, to create a new story. I had ventured out during a mapping session, and I ended up somewhere in a savannah village, just temporary, because I had gone the wrong way and I needed somewhere to shelter for the night, so I ended up in that village. And there was a hill right next to the village, so I decided to make a starter house there. It was a villa, so I looked for some words that I could put behind villa that sounded well, and I found the word Vulcan. So I made it Villa Vulcan, and immediately the idea came to mind to be a character from the Star Trek series and to be a Vulcan, which actually suits me really well since I've got an autistic disorder. I am within the spectrum. So being a Vulcan would suit me great. So I became the Vulcan ambassador BKraker. Sounded great, so I took that. And I've kept that on. So when one of the newer versions of Minecraft broke much of the redstone inside, or to be specific, under Villa Vulcan, I had to find a new place. So I ventured out, took a spot and made this really big, mathematically shaped, logically shaped thing, and I called it Tial Surak, in honor of, obviously, the Vulcan, how do you call it, pioneer Surak, who was responsible for, well, you'll have to check out Star Trek, and I really consider you do. That was Charles Surak, and that became my new base. Eventually, the redstone there would break as well when another update came up, but that was fine. We were already near the end of the world then, anyway. Charles Surak, and I had a little bit of a crossover. So at a certain moment, also near the end of the season, the ghost of Sir Francis BK appears to Ambassador BK and tells him about the witch mansions that suddenly popped up in 2 locations in the world, and where people could get free slime and free mushrooms of any kind. Then you've got those 2 appearances of Sir Francis BK before Ambassador BK, and I think he actually mooned him twice, but that's just a detail. And also in the final message that BK sent to the other players when the world would end, just before he leaves back for Vulcan, he records it with a camera that doesn't work really well, which is an excuse, of course, because my setup was really crap, or was even crappier than it is now. So I have Ambassador BK say that he should have taken the camera of BK Inc. So there are these little crossovers. That world ended. Sad, sad, sad. And then there was Kyle's Realm Season 4. And there I took on the character of Maréchal de l'Empire BK. Obviously, this is based on Maréchal de l'Empire Ney, one of the marshals of Napoleon, who was actually a traitor. In my family, we've always been Napoleonists, and the same counts for me. So we absolutely consider Ney to be a traitor. I didn't mind taking on the character of Marshal BK. And I was based in Fort BK, or Fort BK Bonaparte, which was also considered, which is based on Fort Boyard, which is a real fortress, which initially, the idea for it came from Louis XIV, but Napoleon was the first one to actually start any of the building of the fortress. He never saw it. One of the last things he saw when he was exiled to Elba was it Elba or was it Saint Helena? The final one after Waterloo. One of the last things he saw was the vestiges, the bases of what would become Fort Boyard later on. I think it was Napoleon III who eventually finished the fort. Doesn't matter, this is all history, you can find that on Wikipedia, I'm sure. So I built Fort BK, or Fort BK Bonaparte. Was there a crossover? Well, there were some small things. Actually, talking about crossover, and now I am focusing myself on you, Cybers. I don't know if you've noticed something special about the books in our UHC series. Check it out, you might find an Easter egg. That's beside the point. There was a little bit of extra. Yeah, the ending of that season went a bit unfortunate after some problems again when Realms was updated just a bit too soon. Anyway, I have some ideas of what I would like to do now. The idea popped into my mind 2 days ago when I was doing a little walk. I'm not going to tell yet what I'm going to do. I hope you find it interesting, and I hope to surprise you and all the other players who are watching this video. I hope you will not insist and you don't try to get more information out of me. I want to surprise you all. I hope I will be able to. I still need to find a decent place for me to start building. I'm still in the designing stage. I have lost a bit of time. I haven't had much time to do the designing yet, so I will try to do this in the next few days. Now that I've done this mapping session, I think I might choose one of the locations in this quarter. I'm not sure. There is still time, of course, to decide for that. And we'll see. I am sure I'm going to have a lot of fun. But I will need a lot of materials, so I will need to do a lot of planning. There's a lot of ofs in that sentence. So that was a little bit of history of BK on Kyle's Realm and my role playing. I hope that gives you a little bit of an image of who BK is and what BK does. And we can see further on now. Again, I hope my voice will be better in the next few days, that I can finally make a decent episode for you guys, something with a little bit of action. But this was something, another introduction. And we will see what happens next. Okay. This is it for today. BK says bye.